Hi, I'm Danny Black, and welcome to the @SportsBalt podcast. On this podcast, I will be talking sports cards, collectibles, memorabilia. I'll be interviewing hobby guests. I will be talking about my own thoughts. I'll cover regular sports that relate to the hobby. That's the fun part. More importantly, I want you along for the ride. So click like and follow for more content, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Sports Ball Podcast. I'm Danny Black, and tonight I'm talking about Moe Berg, one of my favorite subjects in the entire world to talk about. Moe Berg was a backup catcher in basically the 20s and 30s. He bounced around for quite a while, and we're going to get into that. What you should know is that Moe Berg was a lifetime 243 hitter. And that's important to know. 15 seasons in the major leagues as a 243 hitter. When he was younger, he hurt his knees, and I don't think he ever had more than 360 plate appearances in a season. I think that was only once early in his career. He was a lifetime -4 WAR player. Decent defensive catcher, so I guess you hang around. But that's not the Moe Berg story. Now, at the time, that's what everybody thought Moe Berg was. And one of the reasons his cards are rare is because who keeps cards of backup catchers that bounced around to multiple teams? I mean, Moe Berg played for Brooklyn, played for the White Sox, the Indians. He played for the Senators, the Red Sox for many years. So, you just wonder, how does a guy who's not that great of a player, to be honest with you. He's a 6'1", 180-pound, soaking wet backup catcher. And then we want to talk about the Moe Berg, the person. Like I said, he has an interesting story. So he's the son of Russian Jewish immigrant parents in New York. He grows up playing baseball in the streets with the local police officers, actually, taught him how to play catch. His family moved to New Jersey when he was younger, and actually he played under a pseudonym Runt Wolf because he went to a Methodist church baseball team, and Moe Berg sounded too Jewish. So he played under the pseudonym Runt Wolf. But Moe Berg was brilliant. Moe Berg goes to Princeton for undergraduate degree and is drafted by the Brooklyn Dodgers as a shortstop, 21 years old. Goes pretty much straight into the majors. Doesn't play very well at 21 as a shortstop. So he says, all right, let me go to the Sorbonne. And he studied there, and he was in France. And Moe Berg ended up speaking, I think it was 12 different languages, French certainly among them, and comes back and resumes his career. Now he's a catcher, and this career kind of goes on. Uh, he was a single bachelor who was known to read newspapers by the dozens every day, stacks of papers laying around. He was a hoarder, read everything cover to cover. In 1935, there was a famous tour to Japan of All-Stars. 1934. It was a famous tour of Japan of All-Star players. So we're talking Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, real top-level players. And they're going to Japan on this tour. And Moe Berg is on this tour with these All-Stars. I mean, it was an All-Star player tour. So so you wonder, why is Moe Berg on this All-Star tour in 1934? I mean, he was not coming off a good year. He was not that good of a player. I mean, he spoke Japanese, but it's not reason enough to be on an All-Star tour. There were certainly plenty of All-Star tours that didn't have guys that spoke Japanese. So it comes to the other side of Moe Berg. Moe Berg, in law school, in undergrad, where of course he was magna cum laude, Um, he, at some point, and this is where the story gets a little blurred, and there are no hard and fast answers. At some point, either on his own or he was working with the U.S. government, uh, Moe Berg, uh, on this tour to Japan. And I'm going to read this from this is a clip from his book, or excuse me, a biography of him. A Catcher Was a Spy by Nicholas Dawidoff. And from that book, the author writes, he, Moe Berg, bluffs his way up onto the roof of the hospital, the tallest building in Tokyo at the time. And from underneath his kimono, he pulls out a movie camera. He proceeds to take a series of photos, panning the whole setting before him, which includes the harbor, the industrial sections of Tokyo, possibly munitions factories, and things like that. Then he puts the camera back under his kimono and leaves the hospital with these films. Wow. So Moe Berg was a spy for the US government. He's filming Tokyo before World War II, and he's getting film. And one of the things that I found here that was just fantastic. And excuse me, I'm going through. There's so many notes here, and I want to get the facts straight, because where we do have facts with Moe Berg, it is not very consistent. Um, he actually went into the hospital under the guise of visiting an American woman who had just given birth. So that's how he snuck into the hospital. And that was the story that got him into the hospital. But once again, remember, he was supposed to be a baseball player on tour. While in Japan, he gives a lecture in Japanese, in fluent Japanese. So you wonder, was baseball the first reason he was in Japan, the second reason he was in Japan, the third reason he was in Japan? When did he start working for the U.S. government? Did he take those film on his own? Did he give them to the U.S. government then? Or, as he said later, he gave them to the U.S. government closer to World War II when he was officially working uh, for the CIA's predecessor, the OSS. So it's just a fascinating story, and nobody at the time knew any of this. So, how does that relate to baseball cards? Well, if you don't keep baseball cards of backup catchers, there's not a lot around almost 100 years later. So, real quick, I just want to flash some of these up because the top right, if you're watching, the 1933 Gaudy Moe Berg is my favorite, one of my favorite cards of all time, and certainly my favorite Moe Berg card. Excuse me. Taking a sip of water. Uh, so the 33 Gaudy Moe Berg is my favorite. The 34 batter up, the 39 play ball, the 40 play ball, all black and white. The 33 Gaudy is the only one that's not a photograph, however. So to each their own, but I prefer the 33 Gaudy. I have owned that card on and off several times. And eventually, one of these days, I'm going to commit to it. Uh, I never seem to be happy. There always seems to be another one, always trading up and down. But anyway, so the point of it is Moe Berg's cards have a higher value than most backup catchers, but they didn't for a long time because this story wasn't public for a long time. The book The Catcher Was a Spy, I believe it came out in the late 80s, early 90s, and the movie decades after that. And the movie's horrible, by the way. Read the book, or read any of the biographies. But I want to analyze the rest of Moe Berg's kind of the end of his career and his role officially, or what's been talked about. Moe Berg finished his career in 1939. He played with Boston, just appeared in 14 games at 37 years old. Goes to work for the OSS, which was the predecessor to the CIA. Um, and in his work there, he went to South America. He went to Germany, and that was probably the most famous thing he ever did as a spy, because he was a spy. Um, and think about that: 15 years in the major leagues, and he was a spy. When did he become a spy? Still not clear. A lot of people believe his baseball career was completely a cover. Uh, Other people believe Moe Berg's public story, that this was really later in his career and later in life. But there was stories about the president throwing out the first pitch before a game and saying hi to Mo earlier in his career. Uh, and not that it means anything, but he stayed to himself. He was always doing his own thing. Maybe he was just a little quirky, or maybe he was a spy a lot earlier on. When you're traveling at that age and you speak 12 languages, you certainly probably get on the radar of the government pretty quickly. But when he went to Germany, he went there, and this is right, right the height of the nuclear arms race, and going into World War II. And obviously, as a Jewish American, his concern about the Nazis and what could happen with Hitler. So he agrees to go over to Germany and listen to one of their top nuclear scientists speak about uh, nuclear weapons, but more importantly, Moe Berg gets invited to a dinner party, and he hears the scientists talk off the record that the Americans are ahead in the race for nuclear weapons, and the Germans are not close to the Americans. Uh, so Moe Berg makes the decision that the Germans are not a threat at this time, and that's interesting, because you know what his assignment was if he thought the scientist had nuclear capabilities. He was supposed to assassinate the scientist, and that is crazy. Um, Turned out he was correct in his analysis, and it just adds to this phenomenal legend of what would have happened if he was wrong. What would have happened if he would have assassinated the scientist in Germany? Just lots of questions. Moe Berg died living with his relatives. He died poor, by all accounts, and for many years he was only known as a backup catcher. His the rest of his story was not completely known at all for many years. I mean, bits and pieces. When he was officially retired and traveling the world. I think with the Rockefellers in South America as part of the contingent with the OSS. But there were some great quotes that I just want to bring up, because if you're a fan of the quote "all glove no hit," well, that phrase was developed. Uh, Talking about Moe Berg, it was a Cardinal scout, Mike Gonzalez, in the early 20s, who coined that phrase when talking about Moe Berg. So he was responsible for that scouting phrase. And then one of my favorite quotes was a teammate of his talking about uh, the fact that Moe Berg could speak 12 languages. And he said, and the teammate said, he can speak 12 languages, but he can't hit in any of them. And that probably defines Moe Berg's career. So, uh, from vintage cards to American Spy, American Hero, baseball player, I don't know. Moe Berg's just fascinating. I've always been intrigued by his story, and I thought it would take a couple minutes to share it. And I hope you've enjoyed just a little bit of a tease. And I encourage you to read more and learn more, because with Moe, not all the answers are there, and every time you dig, there's always a little bit more to the story. So, uh, but that's a taste of why I PC. And if you were watching this, there's Moe right there. Been with us the whole time, just keeping an eye like a spy. Thank you very much, everybody. Catch you next time.